Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is tired of having the should we break up conversation. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
Correct. We are not professionals. We are not trained in any of this, so please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs on the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love.
All right, let's get right into our letter. This letter comes from Just Hanging Tight, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing from the abyss. Hey fam, so I've been with my partner, they, them, for a year and a half, and though we completely U-hauled it, for the straight audience members, this is a term for lesbian-ish partnerships where they move extremely fast early on in the relationship. We actually officially moved in together this last month. My partner, I'll call them Fern, has been going through some tough times of just self-doubting, wondering what they're supposed to be doing with their life, dealing with depression and weight gain, while simultaneously also dealing with their gender dysphoria, considering top surgery, and has also recently self-diagnosed themselves as being on the autism spectrum. It's a lot. I've been trying to be there for them and just listen. They struggle to even find words for all of the heavy things they are processing, and a lot of the times all they can say is, I'm just unhappy. This season that Fern is going through is not the reason why I'm writing to you, but merely context. The problem is that for the last 3 months, almost like clockwork, around the exact same time of the month, Fern goes through this whole thing where they are seriously doubting the relationship. They will say something along the script of, I love you so much, but I feel like we are completely different, and I also miss what it was like when I was single and I took care of myself. Usually when this happens, I just listen and even take notes for them when they're in a place of being able to process. And every time this conversation happens, they immediately feel better, and they're so glad that they opened up. They're so appreciative that I'm a safe place for their feelings, and we carry on in a better place. Now, Sierra, I feel like you'll resonate with me because every time we have this conversation, my abandonment wound gets ripped wide the fuck open, and I then spend the next few weeks wondering when the next shoe drop moment will happen. I find myself walking on eggshells and just trying to be accommodating as possible. I have so much empathy for the very real and hard feelings that are bombarding Fern, and I'm glad that we do have open lines of communication. I guess I'm just struggling because every time this conversation happens, Fern will say something like, I shouldn't be having doubts. I should just be feeling 100% good about this relationship. So since I'm having doubts, then I worry that maybe we shouldn't be together. I believe that all relationships have highs and lows. It's a natural cycle. It's really difficult to try to convey this concept to Fern. And then I remind myself that when Fern is feeling this way, that it is all or nothing thinking, right? Which tells me that they're genuinely in a fight or flight mode and their entire system is flooded. Obviously, this makes sense given all of the things that they're currently working through. So I guess my question is, how many times is too many times to go through the should we break up conversation before Fern should just shit or get off the pot? They're in therapy, but it's still fairly new, and I keep trying to remind them of the myriad of very serious life things that they're going through right now. I also genuinely believe that I'm one of the few people in their life that truly understands the full breadth of their experience, and I have so much compassion for the weight of it all. Not to mention that if we did break up, I really don't feel like it would solve their problems. And even through this hardship, I still love the shit out of this beautiful human, and I really love my life with them. But my damn abandonment wound, fam. This is occurring so much that the wound is taking more and more time to heal. This was a therapeutic exercise in writing it down, and I appreciate your time in reading it. I would really appreciate any insight you might have about this tender situation.
Oh, my darling. Thank you so much for writing and trusting us with what you're right is a very tender situation. I have a lot of compassion for everyone involved, and I'm really honored that you chose to share this letter with us. I think it can be really hard to strike the balance between caretaking and affirming somebody's doubts while still advocating for the peace and love that you deserve, striking a balance. I mean, the fact that you take notes for somebody while they're contemplating out loud how they miss being single and like to, sometimes imagine themselves without you and aren't 100% happy, like that is self-flagellation at the fucking peak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let me caretake for you while you are contemplating breaking up with me.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I think that we, that there's a lot of compassion missing in this world. So let me be the first to tell you that is a beautiful thing that you do. And also, I know personally, as you said in the letter, how hard it is to care for others while you're caring, or to care for yourself while you're caring for others. So hopefully we'll dive into some of the nuance of that, how to navigate a relationship when one person doesn't know if they want to be there or not. I don't know. We'll get into all of that in just a minute. But first, we're going to take a quick break.
All right, friends, welcome back. Just hanging tight. Like Sierra said, thank you so much for writing to us about this. And this is really a pickle that you're in. And I do want to create space for the idea that relationships might have doubt in them, and that it's okay for us to be in a place where we're looking at our relationship, especially one that, is relatively new, and being like, is this something that I want to be doing? Right? Like, I'm not feeling super happy right now. And is that just because, I'm in a time in my life where this is great, or like things are challenging for me, or is it because I'm deeply unhappy in this relationship? And I think that that's like a healthy, and that can be, let me say that can be a healthy and constructive way of moving through relationships and doing self check-ins to be really true to whether or not we want to be in things. And there's also a way in which perpetual doubt in a relationship can grind the relationship into something that it's not going to be working, right? Like, and I think that I appreciate how much time and care you are putting into holding the idea that it's okay that your partner isn't all in all the time, right? Like, and that part of what you would like to do to support and love this person is to hold that truth with them. And I also want to say that you are not this person's therapist, right? You are not an objective outsider in this relationship.
Yes.
You are not somebody whose entire mode of being in this relationship is to help them process through what they need to process through. It's not your job. Yep. You are also in this relationship. The words that they say about this relationship impact you because you are also part of this relationship. And I, again, want to hold space to the idea that, like, it's okay to doubt relationships. It's okay to process through
100%.
whether or not you want to be with somebody. I think that it's really challenging to do that with the person who you are having these questions about. And
yes,
what I'm concerned about in this is not that they're having doubts about what's happening in this relationship, or even that they're in a time in their life where there's a lot going on for them and that you are trying to find a way to hold that with them. I think that that's beautiful and wonderful and great. What I am concerned about is the fact that the way that the dynamics of this relationship are showing up is that you are doing a lot of work to not be hurt by the things that she are saying, or the things that they are saying, which are hurtful, right? Which are not great things to hear. And instead of being like, how am I processing through the hurt that this is causing with them, right? I'm going to reflect back to them what they're saying and how that's landing on me. Instead, you're just sort of like, here's all of the reasons why they're doing the thing that they're doing. Yeah. Yep. And I have nothing to say about it, right? Like, my job here is just to hold it and to take it. And I don't think that that's what your job is in this relationship, right? I think that part of what needs to happen in this is not just a one-way conversation where they tell you everything about what's going on with them and the doubts that they're having about all of this relationship, but something that is much more reciprocal, something that is much more an understanding of the ways in which their behavior in this relationship is causing you to doubt whether or not this relationship is sustainable for you, right? And I think that you owe it to yourself to share some of that out loud with this person. And I think you honestly owe it to them to not just be a wall on which they can throw all of the paint that they want to, but instead like a co-creator of whatever art you're creating in this relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree. I find the sentence, how many times is too many times to go through the should we break up conversation before Fern should just shit or get off the pot.
Sure.
And I want to point out that is an extension of that black and white thinking that you're trying to work against, that they are the ones to, to decide if the relationship is over or not. And obviously I know that's a little bit more complicated because like you don't want it to end, I'm guessing, right? Mm-hmm. But that's another thing. There's not a lot in this letter to say, I want to stay in this relationship because of these reasons, or this is what feels good when we are good, or whatever. I see a ton of caretaking, and not just caretaking. I see a ton of compassion and patience and active processing for all of these big feelings on one side of the relationship. And obviously you're putting a lot of your feelings into this letter and your abandonment wound and all of these things, but it's not just should Fern shit or get off the pot. It's should you shit or get off the pot, or to take it one step farther, like what if it's not all or nothing thinking? What if we say like, well, what does the relationship need to where this cyclical, intense self-doubt about the quality or the purpose of the relationship, how can we develop tools or strategies or conversations or whatever it needs so that this isn't so intense all the time? Like to channel 2018 Sierra a little bit, when we started this podcast, like this is a little bit of a red flag for me, especially the sentence like when I was single and I took care of myself. Like what makes your partner think that they can't take care of themselves when they're in partnership with someone else?
Yeah.
What makes them think that, once a month for 3 months, they can say, I'm not sure about this relationship, but we're so different. Like I want to echo what Sam said. It is not just okay. It's so normal to question a relationship. That's okay. Yep. That's not what I'm pushing back on here. What I am pushing back on is these extreme statements and no adaptation to them. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so what can we learn? What can we do differently so that next month doesn't happen like this? I guess also just like a general pause to say, this sounds really hard. If I haven't said it already, we can have all the compassion in our hearts in the world for other people, for what they're going through. We can understand why they are challenged right now to show up in, a more healthy, stable way. We can try so hard to make ourselves so small as to accommodate everyone else. And it's really hard. This is all really hard. This would make me question myself. This would make me anxious. This would make it hard to sleep. This would make it hard to enjoy the good times. So just general affirmation. I want to say something really random and mildly off topic.
Love that.
And I just have to, because I am in my late 30s. So I'm thinking about like bodies and hormones and changing, whatever. I also want to note, like, almost like clockwork on a monthly cycle makes me think about hormones. Yeah. And I don't know what hormones your partner has. We all have hormones, no matter our gender identity or the sex we were assigned at birth. We all have a hormonal cycle, and we all have chemicals in our bodies that are balanced or imbalanced or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? I saw in an interview the other day that Kelly Clarkson's, this is so fucking random, but Kelly Clarkson was like, my range changes whether or not I'm on my period because of inflammation. And I was like, wow, whoa, yeah. Bodies are so weird is why I was saying that. Yep. And so I just, if Fern is on the beginning of their therapy journey and their self-diagnosis journey, like, they're when I was coming off of breastfeeding, I knew like clockwork, once a month, I would text Willow and say, I'm batshit crazy right now. I'm sad and I'm angry, and this is not meant to be like diagnostic or pejorative or anything. This is just meant to say sometimes there's more than just what's at the surface, as you know, from the way that you've described. And maybe that's something that you can bring to Fern to say like, hey, I've noticed that there's a cycle to this. I've noticed that there's not just a time cycle, like not just that it happens at the same time of the month, but that there is, that you say all of these big things, I affirm them, and then you feel better,
Yep.
What can we do to progress this cycle, or what can we notice about the time, the things that bring on these feelings? Are you feeling extra uneasy? Are you having trouble sleeping? Are bodies are wild. That's all I want to say to that.
Sure.
All bodies are wild, no matter what sex you were assigned at birth. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And obviously bodies are a huge part of that, but also like our own psychological growth.
Yes.
Right.
Totally.
Also goes through cycles too. And one of the things that we can do is to start to get good at noticing the patterns, right? So that when the pattern comes back up again, we can say,
right.
yes, here this thing is. I've been here before. I know this thing. I know it will pass, or I know the things that I need to do in order to help me in this pattern, right? Like,
yes,
I know in January, the month of my dad's death, right? Like shit comes up for me, so I prepare for it, right?
Totally.
Like, and I do what I need to do to help see me through that. Or I'm also very like the changing of the seasons is always something that like impacts me emotionally. And like, it's something, it's like, yes, here we are again. The seasons are changing. Of course, these feelings are coming up for me. And so I think maybe helping your partner see the cycle that they're in around this, like Sierra said, might be helpful to be like, yep. So last month we had the same conversation and I'm noticing that it's happening every month. So like, what is the thing that's sort of driving this, right? And again, this is you being really helpful for your partner. And this is also something that their therapist could also be doing with them. And I hope that their therapist is. Right? Yeah. Because I want you to also say, this is a thing that keeps happening every month, and this is the impact that it has on me, right? Like I want you to be...
Impact. I want to hear about your impact. That's it, Sam.
Absolutely.
That's the word.
I want you to be part of this cycle too, right? It's not just about them. It's a cycle of your relationship. It's a cycle about both of you. And it's not your job to be so self-effacing that you just let them say whatever they want to say and just take it, right? Like, I want you to also let them say what they need to say, and also help them understand how that lands on you, how that makes you feel, how it makes you feel about your relationship, the fact that they're doubting it every month on the month, right? And this thing that you're sort of saying about like, and I'm trying to be there, I'm trying to be helpful for them, I'm trying to listen, I'm trying to understand, and also this abandonment wound keeps coming up in me. And I'm like, maybe that's an abandonment wound, but also like maybe it's just like a normal reaction to your partner telling you that that they are doubting being with you. Like I like you know what I mean? I understand this urge that we have. I have this too, to sort of like pathologize some of our reactions and responses to things as if every reaction or response is like somehow tied to something we need to heal.
Yes.
I don't think that that's happening right now, right? Like
I could not handle I couldn't handle 3 months. I couldn't handle 1 month if my partner said this to me.
No, absolutely not.
We would be in couples therapy. I would be
absolutely.
I would be drinking. I mean, like I would be, this would challenge me. 3 months in a row, I would have shaved my head and I'd be living in a yurt by now.
For sure. I think like I don't think that this is speaking to some like deep unhealed wound that is your problem to solve, right? I think that
that's it.
You know what I mean? Like I think that this is speaking to a dynamic in your relationship that is unsustainable for you two. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be like I need to figure out how to react and respond perfectly to what's happening here so that I can hold their truth without my truth getting in the way of it. But instead saying like, No, this is true. Both of these things are true at the same time, and both of them need to be considered in how we are working together on this relationship.
I was thinking too, like, maybe these statements are so blunt and direct because that's their communication style because of, maybe they are on the autistic spectrum, you know what I mean? And maybe this is just the way that they communicate their feelings. And to me, it feels too blunt, right?
Sure.
And that truth can be held in the exact same breath as when you say those things, this is how it makes me feel.
Yep.
This is what I'm carrying. This is what I'm processing, all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the long and short of it, my love, is that you are in this relationship as well, that you deserve space in it, that you deserve to have your own experience of this relationship seen by your partner, and that your concerns about how this relationship is functioning are just as valid as their doubts about whether or not this relationship is working for them, right?
Right.
And
right.
You deserve to be able to hold that truth, both of those truths, in this relationship with your partner, because there's two of you in it. No matter how much we want to self-efface ourselves and make ourselves small or be the aloof, perfectly rational person on the sidelines, you are both in it, and you both need to be in it in order for this relationship to function. Yep.
All right, my darling, we love you so much. We love your partner, and we believe in this. Thank you so much for sharing your pickle with us. We hope this helps.
Absolutely. We love you. All right, everyone. It is Friday. And on Friday, we set you up on a blind date, which is when we try and let you know about something that we think you're really going to like. And this week, we want to send you home with...
It's a podcast about writing. Y'all know I am on my novel writing journey, finally. And I have been spending my nominal free time listening to the podcast, The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. It's hosted by 3 writers / literary agents / editors.
Cool.
It does a really great combination of strengthening, talking about actual writing, memoir, fiction, whatever, and actually strengthening your writing approaches, strategies. They interview published authors, and that is paired with conversations and strategies about how to pitch your book to book agents and to publishing houses, how to self-publish, all of that thing. So I feel like it's a wonderful, for me, who always thinks of writing as not just like a creative endeavor, but as a career and as a job, I feel like it's a really great overview of the industry on the creative spectrum all the way over to the marketing and publishing spectrum. It's both sides of the brain, so to speak. And they've been around for a while, so there's 1 billion episodes, and they do online workshops, whatnot. So far, really been loving that resource. It's called The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. You can find it where you listen to podcasts, if you've ever heard of them.
I love it. Thank you for recommending that.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in more content from us, you can always support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon, you can get an additional weekly episode as well as access to our episodes without ads. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcast and his music on Spotify. And remember, 2 things can exist at the same time. You can take care of yourself while being in a relationship. You can caretake while prioritizing your own needs. You can not understand why someone does something and still choose to trust them and move forward into vulnerability and the unknown. 2 different things can be true at the same time. That's the mantra of the week. And if all else fails,
just break up.